What's up, y'all? And welcome to The Quiet Loud with me, DeAntony Collins. Tonight's episode is about focus and about what happens when truth becomes optional and affordability becomes just a punchline. And if you're new here, this is where we take the noise of politics, strip it down to what actually matters, and tell the truth in such a way your timeline probably won't. And if you've been riding with us so far, then you already know that this community is growing, and I am so grateful that you're a part of it. But before we get started, if you can do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to this channel. Tap that bell so you don't miss when we drop new episodes. We're here every Thursday without fail, okay? All right, and then there'll be clips throughout the weekend. They kind of highlight what you missed, and sometimes people want to enjoy the clips, and that leads them back to the videos. Any way you want to take it in, I'm here to give it, all right? So let's jump on in. I want to start tonight with something simple yet confounding, and probably a bit damning when you pay attention to it. I'm going to show you a clip of dueling ideas on affordability. On the top of your screen, you'll see a man promising voters that he will fight for affordability. You know, lower prices, lowering costs, bringing relief for families trying to make ends meet. I mean, that's an attractive message. And on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a man calling affordability a hoax. So go ahead, check this out.
Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again.
The word affordability is a Democrat scam.
We will make America affordable again.
I don't want to hear about the affordability.
One of my top priorities will be to quickly defeat inflation and make America affordable again.
Affordability is a hoax that was started by Democrats.
Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again.
They use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax.
How about that, huh? That's the same man, using the same voice, touting the same policies, but somehow a different truth, right? Because owning the consequences would somehow require some accountability, right? I believe this is an intentional strategy, though, where they campaign on pain and then govern by denial. You know, you can always, when in doubt, just blame Biden. But real Americans know that affordability isn't just a vibe or a feeling or a hoax. I mean, you can just check the receipts. So we're going to start where Americans actually live, with the bill, because we're the ones paying it. Across the country, families are staring at grocery receipts that just don't make sense. Insurance notices that don't add up. Rent increases that feel detached from our reality. Polling shows affordability is now the number one concern for voters, ahead of immigration, ahead of foreign policy, and ahead of any of those culture war fights that the president likes to throw out every time he sees that the opposition is starting to galvanize, that some bipartisanship may be on the horizon, that we're starting to move beyond red and blue and see how he's affecting the green. Okay? And here's the key point. People don't need ideology to understand affordability. They just need simple math. They understand that when tariffs raise import costs, that our prices go up. They understand that the ACA subsidies, when they're threatened, that the premiums will spike. And they also understand that when wages lag behind inflation, that families also start to fall behind. That's not politics. That's plain old kitchen table economics, just like grandma used to make. And when the president calls our lived experience a hoax, what he's really saying is our experience, yours and mine, doesn't count. Because they're talking about, things not going up, gas being low, all kinds of prices being low. When we who go out and know what a gallon of gas costs because we put gas in our own cars, who go out and fill our grocery carts weekly, we know what prices are. So what he's saying is our experiences don't matter. Our experiences don't count because we're not millionaires and billionaires. See, affordability is a hoax when you can afford things, right? When going out and buying things, the price of it never really enters into your mind. So they're not thinking about where we are. They're out of touch with where we are. They're not living in the same world that we're living in. And nowhere is that disconnect more clear than on the issue of healthcare right now. With 3 out of 4 Americans, including a majority of Republicans, y'all, supporting extending enhanced ACA premium credits. But why? You know what? Because without them, premiums jump by double digits overnight. People are going to see their healthcare premiums double. It's going to be an average double, sometimes even more, okay, for people who are using those subsidies. And eventually, everybody. Because when people start to leave the healthcare market, it will start to become more expensive for everyone. This isn't abstract nor theoretical. It's the bill that's arriving in our mail and is coming soon. The end of the year is arriving real fast, all right? Yet House leadership has refused to bring a clean vote, even as moderates warn privately that killing those subsidies could trigger resignations that we've been hearing and seeing, and even electoral losses. You know, the ones that they're trying to prepare for by gerrymandering districts all across the country. Which is why, at the time of this recording, at least 4 House Republicans have now signed on to the Dems' discharge petition to force a vote on a clean 3-year extension of the Obamacare subsidies. The ACA has been law of the land for 15 years now, and they've been opposed to it every single step of the way, saying that they had something better to bring to the table. And if they truly had a better option, which they've had 15 years to bring, they would have submitted it already. And they haven't. Now that's the quiet truth. Healthcare isn't just a moral issue. It's the fastest way that affordability collapses on itself. You can probably survive expensive groceries for a while. Not forever, but for a while. If your bills are normally $200 and now they're $400 in your grocery bills every week, you won't survive forever, but you might survive for a while. But you may not survive losing that healthcare coverage. Especially if you have somebody with high comorbidities, somebody with pre-existing conditions, somebody already struggling with their health. And who knows? People get sick all the time. These are human bodies. We all age and get sick. You know, we all need healthcare. It is an absolute right. It is a moral right, and it should be a constitutional right. Okay? Voters know the difference. And they're starting to all come together around that idea. Now let's talk a little bit about affordability and immigration, because affordability doesn't just stop at the border. And I'm not talking about the slogans, nor the caravans or scare tactics. We're talking about costs. Now, I live in North Carolina, and I've spoken about this before, about how ICE operations have targeted some of the most economically vulnerable communities. And not just here in North Carolina, but everywhere. Okay? We've seen workers disappear and households lose income overnight. Small businesses are losing staff. Rents are going unpaid. And when families are displaced, housing markets start to contract. Shelters then overflow, and local governments are the ones holding the bag then. It's not the federal government, you know, and then your local government has to bump up their taxes on you. Nobody wants to do that. That's not law and order. It's more like shock and awe. And not just shock and awe, but an affordability shockwave. Okay? Everybody's experiencing it. Even in places like Miami, voters recently rejected this approach, flipping leadership in a city that hadn't elected a Democrat in 3 decades. Again, why? Because fear-driven policy is expensive. Just ask the farmers and small business owners. Heck, check your own store shelves. And people are getting sick and tired of paying for it and being lied to about it. Foreign policy may feel distant because it's beyond our shores, but it starts to hit home a little bit more when it hits your wallet. Our unstable alliances raise energy costs. Just think about the challenges that we're having with our neighbors to the north. They help us with our energy, and because somebody's jawing off at them, now some of our states are starting to have a raise in energy costs. Or, barrels of oil abroad. I mean, we've taken to now pirating oil from other nations because the energy costs in these trade wars are raising costs and disrupting supply chains. Okay? These prolonged conflicts are what drive inflation. And when America's word becomes unreliable, the markets react negatively. When diplomacy collapses, the consumers, we're the ones that pay. This is why serious leaders talk about foreign policy in terms of stability, not bravado. We're not chest thumping. Affordability isn't just domestic, it's a global issue. And chaos is always the most expensive option. And the Trump administration thrives in that chaos. So let's talk a little bit about work, wages, jobs, and the cost of Trump's denial. Okay? Wages have not kept pace with housing, with healthcare, or education costs. Jobs numbers mean less when our benefits shrink. Employment isn't security if just one medical bill can wipe out everything. And instead of addressing that reality, the administration dismisses our concerns. They rewrite their own promises and then gaslight the voters into questioning their own experiences. Okay? You guys are rich. You're doing well. There's no such thing as an affordability problem. That's a hoax. No, that's not leadership. That's avoidance. And in a reality where hiring rates are starting to decline and the private sector is shedding jobs, it's no wonder that people are starting to catch on. So here's the moment I wanted to land on you guys tonight. This is not the time for Democrats or anyone who believes in good governance to splinter, to posture, or chase those distractions that get thrown out there. Because the message is already written. It's affordability. It's healthcare and wages, jobs and stability. That's it. We're not giving them a chance to talk about us having vibes campaigns. We're not giving up any headlines about infighting. We're not doing any viral dunks on members of our own conference. People don't need politicians out performing outrage. They need leaders who can explain what's happening and tell us how to fix it. I mean, while still being outraged. There's a lot of outrage to go around. But truth, simply told, can still be the most powerful message. And we need to all unite and rally behind that. Discipline is how we will win in November of 2026. And we all need to stay around that idea. Affordability, healthcare, jobs, wages, stability. That's how we win in November. Okay? I'm not saying that we never comment or mention any of the other pressing matters that are happening out there. But I think that they can be, kicked out to committees of people that we can trust. I talked last week in last week's episode about just the power of that veterans PSA on not following unlawful orders. That was powerful because that was a trusted group of people with credibility on the issue. We can get a committee of people like that on all of these issues so that we can trust that when they come out on it, they're united, but as a whole, we're still on a united message. And like I said, that discipline is how we will win in November of 2026. So tonight, remember this. Affordability isn't a hoax. It's a truth that a majority of Americans are living with every single day. And if you want that truth to matter, please go ahead and, like I said, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with a person who feels the squeeze but doesn't have the time to track every single headline. You want to do more? Call your representatives. Vote in every single election, up and down the ballot, on off years, and on presidentials. And support leaders who tell us the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Okay? When it's uncomfortable to hear and when it's uncomfortable to say. That's when we know our leaders have integrity. They're not just telling us what they want us to hear and what we want to hear. They're telling us what we need to hear, what we deserve to hear, because we're mature enough to handle it. We can do hard things in this country, and we need to get back to that. All right? And as always, I'm going to ask you to be loud in your listening and be real in your truth. I'm DeAntony Collins, and this has been The Quiet Loud. Y'all take care. And hit that subscribe button. All right, peace.